Today, we're going to take a little adventure and a little different track with the channel. We're going to play a little bit with portrait art using my multicolored ballpoint pen. You can see here there are several colors that are available, including green, blue, purple, black, red, and orange on this pen. And if you've watched the channel, you may have seen some of my time-lapse videos of thumbnail sketches that I've done of portraits and other things too. Today we're going to do a portrait of Walt Disney. And as you'll see, I'll struggle with the likeness. It'll come and go. Proportions are always a challenge. But the Loomis method does give us some guardrails and gives us the best opportunity to create a portrait that successfully achieves a good likeness of the subject without struggling too much. And that's why I use it. And this Loomis method, which is referred to as the ball and Plein method, assumes that the cranial area of the head is going to be spherical, as you saw in that image that I showed there. And there's going to be a mask like plane that hangs off of the sphere that you can use along with other heuristics or rules of thumb, like the rule of thirds, for example, and how the face is divided up, to use it as a framework for conveniently, easily, and reliably drawing a human head and human face that actually comes close to resembling a three-dimensional live human being. So we're going to use that today. We're not going to provide a ton of explanation. I'll just let you follow along visually. But you could refer to my 10-minute summary of the Loomis book called Drawing the Head and Hands. This exercise of drawing these thumbnail sketches is really a stopgap for me. My favorite thing to do is to get outside in nature and paint on plein air, on-site, outdoors, through direct observation, perhaps maybe after a brief hike or a nice drive. However, today that's just not possible. So one of my go-to practices within my art practice are these thumbnail sketches. And I love doing sketches of iconic creative individuals, whether they're writers or poets, artists, entrepreneurs, anybody that has a creative track record. I like to read about their biography and also draw a nice tribute sketch of them. It's a great way to pass the time and keep my drawing skills pretty fresh. And one of the things that has come along as a side benefit to this process is I've become very comfortable with portrait work. In addition to that, one of the wonderful lessons that I've learned, every mark we make has the possibility of being adapted or even erased. Even in the most permanent of mediums, like ink, for example, there's always a way to correct a mistake. And that's one of those things that gets in the way of a lot of artists at all different experience levels and abilities. And I will tell you, learning this lesson by pursuing these little thumbnail portraits in ballpoint pen, I've learned that that's definitely the case. You can correct any mistake. You can overcome any errant mark that you might make. That's if you want to. Oftentimes, people, including the artist that's creating the piece, prefer to actually see evidence of the human element, which includes our capacity to make errors and mistakes. It's very much part of our human experience. So a lot of people like to see those little bits of evidence suggesting that these art pieces were created by a human being. But I will tell you, that little voice inside sometimes will get in the way and keep people from creating altogether, or at least having the enjoyment and the fun that could come along with the process if they were free from that anxiety and that worry. So as you'll see, in this case, I will use white acrylic paint to help shape some of the marks that I make some of the errant marks that I make. And in addition to that, I'll use it to enhance some of the highlight areas as well. Now, each of these colors that's available on this pen do possess a value, meaning a relative light and dark quality. Black is the darkest, blue is the second darkest, purple is right behind blue, then comes green, then red, then orange. Orange is by far the lightest value color on this multicolored ballpoint pen amongst all the available options. And when creating these portraits or drawing landscape paintings even with this multicolored ballpoint pen, the approach is very similar to that which you would use for any opaque or semi-opaque medium, like oil paints, for example. We start with the darkest values and we move gradually to the lightest values. Much like with watercolor painting, though, you're going to want to try and plan out your drawing and leave the white paper visible where the brightest highlights are going to be. And if you make a mistake, just like we referenced before, you can correct it. So if you happen to color in areas that you'd like to have the paper revealed to kind of create the illusion of a highlighted area, don't worry, you could go right over it with an opaque or semi-opaque medium, whether it be acrylic paint or something like whiteout, for example, even work too. And if you're wondering, hey, you know what? I know Tom spends a lot of time painting in oil paints and pastels. Why does he use this? I think, to be honest with you, part of it is kind of like an accident of history. I am an older Gen Xer, so growing up in school, we had multicolored ballpoint pens like this one. They weren't quite as varied in colors. I think we were lucky if we had 3. And I would draw all over my textbook covers and my notebooks. And I would enjoy the vibrations that you would get from the colors laying side by side, much like you would with an impressionist painting. And not too long ago, I just started adapting that practice into these little thumbnail portraits that I'm working on pretty consistently nowadays. Also, some other subjects like interiors, pet portraits, and landscapes as well. And like I mentioned, this is just a great stopgap. If there's a day where I know I can't be as active as I'd like to be with my creative pursuits, you could easily work in a nice, easy little sketch into just about any schedule. And this exercise allows me to do that regularly. So I'm going to continue on with my process here, and you can follow along. I basically gave you much of the technical information that I'm going to share throughout the video today. What I will share with you is I'm using a very simple and inexpensive sketch journal that I purchased at Michael's. It's 4 inches by 4 inches, and I have several of those around my home. And you can get those for anywhere between $2.30 to $3, depending upon what sales and coupons are available. And you could use any journal that you want. I just happen to like these because they're a very convenient size that could fit easily in your pocket. I will also put a link to the actual pens that I use. You can buy them in bulk I actually purchased mine through Amazon. I'll put a link to the actual product that I'm using in the notes for you so you could easily and conveniently pick a few up if you'd like to, but they're very reasonably priced as well. For the rest of this video, I'm going to speed up the video at times. I'm going to give you an opportunity to see how I approach this. You can see that I started the sketch of Walt Disney here with purple for the most part. I find that that's a great darker value to start out a sketch. Oftentimes I'll use green as well. Those are kind of the darker mid-range value options that we have on this pen. And they also reflect some of the colors or hues that we'll see in human pigment. Almost no matter what the complexion is, if you try to create skin tones, for example, by mixing paints, those are colors that you often would incorporate depending upon the actual subject and the area or zone of the face that you're mixing the paint for. So it works well. I start generally with purple. I'll start incorporating green and then eventually other colors as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just let you watch and enjoy the rest of the video. I'll come back at the end and wrap things up. And unfortunately, I don't have the budget for licensing music. Otherwise, I'd be playing some Disney music right now as we went along. But you'll just hear me kind of scratch out this drawing, and you'll see how I struggle from time to time. You'll see a likeness of Walt Disney, and it'll kind of go away. And then you'll see perhaps maybe the face will shift a little bit and look like somebody else. My wife's Uncle Ron, for example, came to mind at one point in time. And some other actors actually came to mind while I was stepping away and looking at the progress. But eventually I get pretty close. You can kind of recognize what I was going for. It's not a perfect execution by any stretch of the imagination. But hey, we're spending some time creating art, kind of honoring a wonderful creative icon that's part of the American tapestry of creative individuals that have helped build our culture. So hopefully you enjoy this process and learn a little bit along the way. If you do, please like and subscribe, and consider sharing this with a friend if you know somebody that thinks might find this interesting or helpful in any way. So we're close to wrapping this up. You can see I've come through 3 times. This is the 3rd and final time I'll take a pass with my white acrylic paint. I'm just looking to really enhance some of those highlight areas. For example, the light wrapping around Walt's shoulder, and also some of the highlight areas on his face and in his hair as well. And I'll come back in with pen in just a little bit and kind of soften some of those edges where they need to be dealt with, and also fix up his eye a little bit too. And one of the things that I struggled with, which is actually quite unusual for me, is that the angles of his eyelids are kind of turned down on the outside of his eyes, and I did not capture that immediately right away. So I'm also going to come through and reshape his eyes just a little bit. His eyelids do actually create a little bit of a highlight area between the brow and the actual eyelashes and the membrane side of the eyelid itself. So we're going to try and capture that as we make our way here and finish up. I do appreciate you watching this video. I do appreciate you checking out my channel. The best way you can support me and help me continue to grow the channel and also expand some of the things that I do for folks that actually subscribe to the channel is by doing just that. Subscribe to this channel if you would, if you could be so kind to do so. Perhaps maybe hit the little bell so you get notifications of updates like this one, and maybe even share this video with a friend who would enjoy watching. Thanks again. Stay well. Hope to see you again.